Some unlocks are for everyone, and some take talent to get. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 things that can only be unlocked by the most skilled players. Starting off with number 10, the Uncharted Collection's Golden AK-47. If you really wanted to challenge yourself in an Uncharted game, playing on crushing difficulty is about as hard as you can get. Enemies took more hits, Drake could only take a shot or two, and for some reason, the developers of the Uncharted Collection weren't satisfied with that. So they added an even harder difficulty called Brutal, and that is exactly what it is. Now, in Brutal, many of the enemies' weapons just straight up kill you instantly. The enemies themselves take more damage, and to make things even more frustrating, you pick up way less ammo than you used to. That means unless you're getting perfect headshots constantly, you'll probably run out. This mode is so hard that even players who use glitches to play with one-hit kills and infinite ammo still struggle with it, like it's that ridiculous. It doesn't really matter which game you're playing on, it's rough in all three of them, but if you manage to beat them on this new difficulty, then you can unlock some golden guns, including the golden AK-47. It's basically a bragging rights reward. It doesn't actually do anything, but at least it's something. So sure, the brutal difficulty is horribly unbalanced and painful to play through, but at least if you spend dozens of hours struggling to get through it, you'll have something to commemorate that accomplishment. I'll leave it up to you to decide if AK-47 but gold is a good enough reward for that, but yeah, that's what you get. And number 9, Horizon Zero Dawn's Ultra Hard Face Paint. Here's something you can unlock I didn't even know about before researching this stuff. In Horizon Zero Dawn, depending on the difficulty level you beat, you can unlock special face paints. You get them for finishing the game on hard, very hard, and on ultra hard. Like, we're talking about the most difficult challenges here though. So for this one, we're just gonna focus on the ultra hard face paint, which is not easy to get. What makes ultra hard so difficult is that the enemies will notice you much quicker, and stealth is almost impossible in a lot of situations. Like, it also totally removes enemy health bars, makes it more difficult to gather resources, and makes stuff you buy more expensive. The last one doesn't sound so bad, but it can actually be really crippling. Everything becomes so expensive that you won't even begin to afford some stuff that you'd be able to get right from the start. So you'll have to take on all these tougher enemies with inferior weapons. The face paints themselves are nothing to really go wild about, but it's nice that the game gives you a reward at all for going through the trouble of beating it in ultra hard. Most open world games don't even bother. And number 8 is Sekiro, the Tengu and Sakura Costume. One great addition Sekiro got post-release was this boss rush mode you can unlock after beating the game. There are a few different trials you can attempt where you fight multiple bosses in a row, and if you manage to kill them all without dying once, you earn a pretty sweet reward. But actually pulling it off is easier said than done. Out of the 3 available challenges at the start, the hardest are Severance and Shura. For Severance, you have to fight the Guardian Ape, the Great Shinobi Owl, the True Corrupted Monk, Genichiro, and Inner Ishin all in one go, without dying a single time. These are some of the toughest bosses in the entire game, especially that final one, Ishin, who's literally the last boss of Sekiro, and one of the most infamously difficult bosses of all time. The Shura challenge isn't quite as tough. In comparison, you fight Emma, the Gentle Blade, Ishin Ashina, the alternate old man version of him, the Demon of Hatred, and the Inner Owl Father. Depending on who you ask, the alternate Ishin is actually tougher than the regular one. The Demon of Hatred is always a slog, and a fight with the Owl Father version of the Owl Boss is actually nastier than the regular one, but beating these at least unlocks some pretty nice alternate costumes for the main guy. The only reason this whole thing isn't lower down on the list is because the actual hardest challenge, called Mortal Journey, only unlocks after you beat the other 3 boss rushes, and basically you fight 17 bosses in one sitting, and your reward for beating it is just nothing. So while these unlocks don't come for the hardest challenge in the game, they're still pretty damn tough to get. And number 7 is the Hercules Costume from God of War 2. If you played the original God of War trilogy, one great thing about them was the unlockable costumes. Like, there's some pretty funny stuff you could get, like the God of War, that chief costume from the first game. But if you really want something to show your skill, the Hercules costume from God of War 2 is probably the best. To get it, you have to beat the game on Titan mode, which is the hardest difficulty mode in the game. Kratos is way weaker, enemies deal significantly more damage. You can also heal less from orbs, and you don't get as many red orbs, but you can charge up the rage of the Titan super mode faster at least. There are a few little exploits you can use to make things easier, like how the enemies don't just do more damage to you, but also other enemies, but this is still one of the hardest challenges in the entire God of War series. Certain sequences are just pure torture in Titan mode, and there's really no other way to describe it. It is really hard. The Hercules costume ended up being a tease for his appearance in God of War 3, and even if this skin doesn't really look a lot like the Hercules from God of War 3, it's still pretty cool. At number 6 is Halo 3's EOD and Hayabusa Armor. One of the most popular difficulty challenges in gaming is to finish the Halo games on Legendary. Like, people love to do it, even when it's pure masochism. These games are all tough on Legendary, and many consider Halo 2 to be the hardest even now, but you get precisely Jack Squat for beating the game on the hardest difficulty, while in Halo 3, you can unlock a pretty sweet set of armor. The EOD armor you get for beating Halo 3 on Legendary, it's a unique piece of armor that you can even bring into multiplayer to show off your skills or at least persistence. I want to emphasize how hard these games get on Legendary. Like, your shields are 50% weaker, enemies take way more damage, there's more of them, there's tougher variants of them, and they appear more often. They're also more accurate, they're more aggressive, the enemy AI will do smarter things. It's just all around really tough. Of course, if you really want to show off your Halo 3 mastery, the Hayabusa armor is even harder to get. To unlock this suit of armor, you have to unlock all the secret skulls in single player, and if you want the complete set that includes the katana, you have to get all the achievements in the game, which includes beating the game on Legendary difficulty. At this point, I don't even think it's possible to get all the achievements in the original version of Halo 3, but for those that did, they had the ultimate armor set that let everyone know how skilled they are at the game. And number 5 is Hollow Knight's Embrace the Void ending. Remember how Sekiro had that extra boss rush you could do that didn't quite actually unlock anything for finishing it? That was a 17 fight gauntlet, which is ridiculous, right? But that is nothing compared to this, which is a totally insane 42 boss fight test of endurance. And instead of getting nothing for finishing it, it actually hides the game's fourth and most secret ending, so there is actually a real reward at the end. Of course, it can't just be a normal boss rush. On top of forcing you to fight every boss in the entire game in a row, you also have to take on even tougher variants of some of the hardest bosses in the game. And yes, they saved them for the end just to make things extra frustrating. Just accessing the boss rush in this game is tough. It's a secret area hidden in another secret area that you can only get in by using the dream nail on this sleeping creature. In this place, you can attempt a series of boss rushes, and they're all tough. By far the most difficult is the Pantheon of Hollowness, the already mentioned 42 boss fights in a row monstrosity. It's just as crazy as it sounds. Just one run can take over an hour to complete, and if you die at any point, that's just another hour of your life wasted. It's so hard, most people just give up and watch the ending on YouTube. On one hand, it sucks to hide an entire ending behind one of the hardest challenges in gaming, but if you want to do it legit, at least you get something significant for all the pain you went through to get here. And number 4 is Dark Souls 2's Illusory Ring of a Conqueror. The Dark Souls series is obviously brutal, but they don't usually have many bonus challenges, except for this one. For some reason, the second game of the trilogy decided to give players a little reward for beating the game without dying a single time. Like in a Dark Souls game, a series that is all about dying, it's an interesting thing to do, is all. But if you can somehow get through the entire game without getting killed, and that includes dying with a Ring of Life protection equipped, then you'll earn this reward, the Illusory Ring of a Conqueror. If you're into Dark Souls multiplayer, this ring's incredibly good. It makes it so the weapon in your left hand appears invisible, so you control your opponents to your heart's content with this thing by making it almost impossible for them to tell what you're doing at any moment. It's totally useless in single player, but online, it's practically broken. It's so powerful. The only balancing factor is just how incredibly difficult it is to get. Like, everybody dies playing Dark Souls game. That's part of the game. So trying to beat one without getting killed at all is a huge task. It also doesn't help that because of game bugs, you might not even get the ring, even if you do that. According to the Dark Souls 2 wiki entry for this thing, for some reason, if you skip the credits after beating the game, it's possible the reward just won't appear at all. So even if you do manage to beat the entire game without dying a single time, if you skip the credits, you don't get your reward, possibly. The real Dark Souls starts here. Damn. And number 3 is the Godhead from the Binding of Isaac. If there's one roguelike out there filled with ridiculously hard challenges, it's the Binding of Isaac. There's a ton of ways you can challenge yourself in this game, so much that it's hard to say what exactly is the toughest. So while the Godhead might not be the most difficult thing to unlock in the game, it's both really good and really hard to get. What makes this so hard to unlock requires some explanation. The Godhead is an unlockable passive that gives you a powerful boost to your standard attack, and to unlock it, you have to acquire all the completion marks on hard mode while playing as the Lost. Now the game's already pretty tough on normal difficulty, and hard mode just ramps up the pain. Like there's tougher enemies, more rooms on each floor, and less healing hearts to get, for starters. And it would be bad enough having to beat every boss on hard with regular Isaac, but with the Lost it's nearly impossible. Why? Because the Lost can only take one hit before they die. So you're basically stuck doing multiple no-hit runs if you want to unlock this thing, because there are multiple last bosses that require you to do different things to face them. It's just an all-around ordeal and the hardest character challenge in the game. You gotta be really skilled to make much progress in the Binding of Isaac normally, but to unlock this item you have to totally master it. And number 2, Dead Space 2's Hand Cannon. This is probably one of the best rewards ever. It's a big foam finger that can somehow just explode enemies by pointing at them. Of course, getting it isn't easy. You have to beat Dead Space 2 on hardcore difficulty if you want it, and it's not an easy thing to do. What makes hardcore so challenging isn't that the enemies are just tougher, it's that you only get 3 saves to finish the entire game. Dead Space 2 is an 8 or 9 hour game, so if you die, you can potentially lose hours of progress here. And if you're serious about getting through it, you have to play carefully and plan ahead. A lot of guides I've seen recommend playing through the game on an easier difficulty and taking notes before attempting hardcore, so you know where the tougher parts are and you're more prepared for them. It sounds like a huge pain in the ass, but the reward is absolutely worth it. Yes, it does take all the difficulty out of the game, but you can kind of think of it as your revenge for all of the pain and suffering you had to go through just to unlock this thing. For hardcore players out there who love to challenge themselves, hardcore mode in Dead Space 2 isn't the most challenging thing to attempt. Like pretty much everything else on this list is harder than that, but that doesn't make it easy, just not as hard as some of the toughest games out there. And finally, at number 1, it's Call of Duty Infinite Warfare's Golden Volk. Most Call of Duty games have 4 difficulty levels: Recruit, Regular, Hardened, and Veteran. Like Halo, a lot of people enjoy challenging themselves by beating the games on the hardest difficulty level, Veteran, which can be no joke depending on the game. With Black Ops 3, they added an even harder difficulty, the ridiculous Realistic, that makes it so if you get hit once, you die. In a Call of Duty game, where you're pretty much getting shot all the time, getting hit once kills you. Well, guess what? This mode that appears one time in Call of Duty Infinite Warfare is even worse. It's called YOLO, and it makes it so you both die from a single hit, and if you die once, you have to start the entire campaign over again. You only live once. I barely feel the need to explain why that is so ridiculous, because it straight up sounds impossible. I mean, I know people have pulled it off, but because you don't get any achievements or trophies for beating it on this difficulty, it seems like most people don't bother. Like, you do get something for finishing it though, a unique golden Volk. What's kind of interesting about it is that it's not just a new coat of paint. The weapon's actually stronger than the standard Volk. It's kind of a shame that you can't bring the golden skin into multiplayer to let everyone know what a masochist you are, but at least you can use the gun in campaign mode if you want. The reward itself isn't that great, but the challenge of getting it is just next level. Most Call of Duty games get you absolutely nothing for finishing them on these bonus difficulties, so at least with Infinite Warfare you do get something, even if it's not the most amazing thing ever. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment, let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is of course a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable all notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.